In 1985, Charles UMLAUF and his wife gave the property, his home, and his studio to the city of Austin. It's a really important thing to understand because the geography of Austin, this land is right in the center and in a beautiful place. It's a beautiful piece of land. And Austin is a city that is one of the top growing cities in America. So there's tons of things going on with construction, with new apartment buildings and condos and hotels. This place would have been perfect for that. But instead, Charles and his wife gave the property to promote the arts, to promote sculpture, and to promote education within the city of Austin, which again, I think is fantastic and special. So come along, I'll show you some more. So now we're here in the garden and we're standing next to a sculpture. And I wanted to mention something very special about the sculpture garden here, is that we are often told by the museums, by our parents, that we're not allowed to touch art. It's a big thing, and it's always like the 101 of looking at art. So here though, they've waxed all the sculpture and they want you to touch it. So it's a really cool experience, and it's great for students and children. And it's great that you are now in a place where you're walking around, you're able to touch the artwork, you can look at the trees, you can smell the flowers. So again, it's like this very unusual, very special experience about enjoying art. So let me walk you over to one of my favorites. It's the hippo, and it turns out it is the most popular sculpture in the park. The name of the sculpture is Lotus, which is named after the Greek goddess of fertility. And Charles UMLAUF spent time at the San Antonio Zoo, and that's what he used as a model for this work. And I just think he's so charming. Now I'll show you another favorite. This work is called The Skater, and this was made in 1970, which is after UMLAUF had seen the Winter Olympics that were finally televised. And like everybody, we're just blown away with the expertness of these athletes. So this is one of his sculptures of a young horse. UMLAUF used horses often as his sculpture subject matter. He owns a horse sculpture in his personal garden, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art also owns a different variation of a horse sculpture. So here's another one of my favorite sculptures in the garden. It's titled The Lovers, and you see the subject matter done by many sculptors. I happen to love this variation. The majority of Charles's work is in bronze, but he also used many other materials, cast stone being one of them, limestone being another, aluminum. So I just thought it was nice for you to see one that is cast stone and from his earlier period. This one is from 1939. Although Charles UMLAUF Sculpture Garden and Museum is predominantly UMLAUF's works, they have added other artists to the collection as a way to create an interesting, more well-rounded conversation. So for example, these chairs behind me were done by the Polaris Architectural Group, and they do add something super interesting to the Sculpture Garden grounds. The UMLAUF Sculpture Garden and Museum is like many other nonprofit institutions. They need to come up with ways to create funding for their budget. So for example, the membership, the benefits, the museum drives, the capital campaigns, things like that are ways to raise money, to create excitement, a party. So one of the things that UMLAUF has done that I thought was super clever was they created a way to sponsor a sculpture. It's called the Sculpture Sponsorship Program. And it's super simple. Basically, you find a sculpture in the garden. There's many to choose from. They have like a certain amount that you can select. You select a sculpture, and then it's kind of yours for the year, meaning that the money that you give towards sponsoring it is given towards its upkeep, any restoration, any renovation, the cleaning, the waxing. You have your name on a plaque. So it's kind of like you've adopted the sculpture for a year. And again, it's a way to raise money and awareness and get people involved. And like I said, I just think it's super clever. You, for at least a year, have a piece of the sculpture garden. Super cool. I love roaming through the gardens, but it's time to go. I gotta lock up before I get caught. Thank you for joining me. And I'm gonna leave you with one last thing. The Charles UMLAUF Sculpture Garden and Museum is on 2 acres at the moment, but as Charles and his wife gave his property to the city of Austin, the UMLAUF Sculpture Garden will be expanding to include his home and his studio, which is just up the hill. So pretty soon this place will be even bigger and I think better and exciting. So come on back and I will see you next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.